Hey guys, as I promised, Nexus One review. Here's the phone. Got it this morning from FedEx. Was kind of nice actually. I got the phone. I bought it from Google last night around 4 p.m. and this morning I wake up and the FedEx guy's at my door with the phone. So that was nice. Let's take a look at it. First of all, the first thing you see is a 3.7-inch capacitive touch AMO LED screen, which has 800 by 480 resolution, and that's quite high for a phone, especially for an Android device, unless you're talking about the Verizon Droid, which also has quite good screen. Now, one of the first things you notice about the phone is that how thin the device is compared to other Android devices I have seen and used, specifically my Touch 3G. This thing is just tiny. It's a little bit heavier than the My Touch, but not by a lot, and it feels really good in the hand. I have no complaints about that. Now, on the bottom you have a micro USB port, and you have light sensors as well as the microphone. This phone has automatic brightness by default, which dims and brightens the phone based on the light conditions you're in. That is a good idea. However, in my opinion, it does not work all that great, as when you use the phone in landscape mode, I believe most of you, including myself, are going to cover light sensors, and when I was trying to text using landscape, the phone became extremely dark, even though I was in quite light condition. And yeah, well, anyways, moving on, let's look at the top of the phone. You have a 3.5mm headphone jack, as well as a dedicated power switch, which also is used to unlock the phone. On the back, you have Google branding. You have 5-megapixel camera with flash. You have a speaker, which is quite decent, not as good as my Touch 3G speaker, for example. Now, this little area right here, you can get this engraved when you buy the phone from Google, and I believe it's free actually. So I would recommend it if you would like something more personal. However, what it does say is that you do void warranty as far as actual return goes. Now, on the left side of the phone, you have a volume switch, which is volume up and volume down. And that's basically it as far as buttons go. The other side is completely blank. You have the usual trackball, you have the back key, you have the menu key, you have home and search. Now let's unlock the phone. You do this by pressing the button on the top. This you can see how much the lock screen has changed since the Android 1.6 and lower. I believe Droid has the same lock screen, but I'm not too certain. On the right side you have the volume mute button slider. You can turn the sound on and turn the sound off, and on the left side you can drag it out to unlock the phone. Instead of having 3 home screens, you now have 5 by default. But if some of you saw my previous videos, you can see that if you root your My Touch 3G or any other phone, you can get 5 home screens, sometimes even more actually. But right now by default you have 5, which is nice. It does feel kind of a little bit choppy when you are on the home screen, but other than that, this phone is really fast as compared to My Touch, for example. Every single Android device I played with or owned, I felt like I had to root the phone and install a custom ROM just to make it run fast. With this phone, I do not have this problem. Now let's look at the changes. The main thing you see is the way the menu button looks on the home screen. Instead of having a slider where you slide it up to open menu, you just press it and you have a nice view of all the applications you have installed. It's very smooth, the transition is. It looks kind of 3G-ish. If you look closely, you can see that it seems like the icons are just going up the screen into a 3D box looking thing. You press home to go back home. It does have Facebook integrated, which is also neat. Now, aside from the menu, you also have two little buttons on each side in the lower corners of the screen. They allow you to switch between home screens instead of have to swipe, and they also illustrate how many home screens you have and kind of help you understand the position of where you are at this moment. So right now it tells me that I have two home screens on the left and two home screens on the right side, and if you hold either one of them, you can kind of have a card view of all of your home screens and you can see all the icons that you have on those screens, and you can click on them and jump straight to that screen, which is kind of fun, I guess. But moving on, one thing that they also added was live wallpapers, which allows you to have 3D looking wallpapers on your home screen, and some of them even have some interaction to them. Let's take a look at Nexus One. As you can see, we have a lot of different lines moving around the screen. You can tap and you can kind of make your own. Kind of useless, but nevertheless, it is fun. You have a number of different choices when it comes to those wallpapers, and some of them even work with your music player. One other thing that they changed, which I find kind of big, is the gallery. The gallery is very smooth and it's 3D. So let's take a look at some pictures, for example. You can go between albums just by tapping, and you can have landscape mode. There is no multi-touch yet, but you can press the zoom in button and zoom in, and unlike previous versions of Android, it's very smooth. You can go back, press the back button to go back in the gallery. Let's go back to the main gallery, let's say. We can look at my camera pictures. As you can see, you can slide through them. If you tilt the screen a little bit, you can see that the thumbnails tilt as well. That's kind of neat, I think. You can also once again have your good old portrait mode. You can swipe through them. You can also hold this little slider and you can kind of sort pictures by date. You can see which dates they were taken. You can go back home. You can also access camera, which is extremely responsive. It's almost instant as far as the start time goes, and you have little menu slider like you have on the Droid. Okay, now let's go back home and take a look at the browser. The browser on this phone is quite nice. It loads pages fast, even over 3G, and it's very smooth. Once again, no multi-touch, but you have the ability to add it by installing custom modifications to your browser. Right now we're on 3G, and what I like about the browser is the way the URL bar looks. On my Touch 3G or Android 1.6 or 1.5 even, you have a small bar which is really hard to click on, and it just doesn't look very elegant. This one does. It's exactly like the Droid, and it gives you ability to click on it and type the address in, as well as many other things. You have landscape mode. You can double tap to zoom in, and it is quite snappy as compared to previous devices I have had running Android. One more thing that they have added was the voice function to the phone, which allows you to do almost everything using just voice. You can send emails, you can type text messages, as well as type anywhere using your voice, using voice recognition software. But we don't have any time left, so I'll have to make a separate video for that. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.